All right, guys. So, we're done with quarter one. Okay, all of the grades from here on are going into quarter two. Remember, you still have one more day that you can come to tutoring next week on Monday. All grades are going to be finalized. You can't get any changes Thursday. So if you do some homeworks or whatever, that's fine. Okay, but by Wednesday, that's the cutoff. And if you send anything pretty much after like the end of the day, Wednesday, maybe it'll go in the grade book, maybe not. So let's kind of aim for that deadline, okay? Our next unit is going to be on rational functions. So if we can just put Chromebooks away for right now. Okay, rational functions is going to be when you have a fraction with x's on top and on bottom. Okay, so rational functions mean that you're going to have a fraction with x's on top and on bottom. Okay. So what we're going to start with today is we're going to find poles and vertical asymptotes. Okay, these are going to come from x's that cause the denominator to equal 0. And there are two types. If you have a hole, let's say you have like a U shape, we've looked at those a whole bunch. Okay, but then there's one dot that gets skipped and then it keeps going. Okay, that would be a hole in the graph. Okay, these you can't see in the calculator, but if you look in the table, it'll say that you have an error at that spot. Okay, then a vertical asymptote is when your graph, maybe it was supposed to be a U, but then all of a sudden there's one X that your graph just kind of like goes crazy at that it can't touch it. Good morning. And you're doing your CIA? Yes. Okay. So here's what you're gonna do. Factor the top and the bottom. And then you're going to cancel out any factors that repeat. So if they're in the top and the bottom of the fraction, you're going to cancel those out. Those give you the holes in the graph. Okay, then any remaining factors that are in the denominator, that's the bottom of the fraction. Bottom. Create vertical asymptotes. Okay, for the rest of the notes, though, we're just going to call that a VA. And then any remaining factors in the numerator, that would be the top, are going to create X intercepts. Okay, so go ahead and take a look at number one. You'll notice that the top is already broken down for you. When I say factor, I mean break it up into parentheses. So you can see that the top little check is already factored for you. Okay, the bottom though, we're going to have to break down. Now you have 4 ways to factor. Okay, you can do the AC chart. You can do GCS and you can do perfect squares. Okay, the fourth type that we learned is grouping. And if I remember correctly, that type isn't on this homework, but it'll come up later. Okay, so look at the bottom expression and tell me what type of factoring would work for that piece. It is perfect squares, very good. So do square root. The square root of x squared is just going to be a regular x. The square root of 9 is going to be what? Plus and minus 3. Very good. So I'm going to have x plus 3 and x minus 1 on top. And then I'm going to have x and x from the x squared plus 3 and minus 3 from the 9. Okay, so we did perfect square roots on that one. Okay, then from there, look at your rules. Okay, we're going to factor. Check, we did it. We're going to cancel out repeated factors. Those create holes. What x? Okay, sorry, we're crossing out x plus 3. So what will the x equals be? -3. Very good. So I'm going to put there's a hole at x equals -3. Any remaining factors in the bottom create vertical asymptotes. So if this is left in the bottom, I'm gonna have a vertical asymptote at x equals +3. And then any x's that are left in the top are gonna create x-intercepts. So if I have a -1 left on top, that means my x-intercept is gonna be at x equals +. Okay, so now let's come down to here and we're gonna finish this up. So for your holes, for your homework, you have to write it as an ordered pair. Now we know that the x is a -3, but we still need to find the y. My vertical asymptote, we said, was x equals 3. And my x-intercept also needs to be an ordered pair. I know that my x is a 1, but I need to find my y. Okay, what you're gonna do for this is take the parts of the equation that did not cross out. So y equals, these are gone, so all I have left is an x -1 and an x -3. You are going to put that into your calculator and then use the table to find the y values for -3 and for 1. Okay? So go ahead and type this into your calculator. You do need to use the pretty fraction, okay, for your answers to come out also as pretty fractions. Okay? And then Catherine, you're in third period, right? I know, oh wait, you're already open, so you can go ahead and take it. It shows you're open on my end. I thought I might have to start you. Okay, so you're typing in the equation, so y equals, do we remember how to get the pretty fraction? Alpha x, very good. So in y equals, I'm gonna alpha x here. And then I'm gonna put x -1 on top, x -3 on bottom. Okay, then I'm gonna go into my chart. I'm gonna find -3's partner, which is 2/3. And then I'm gonna find 1's partner, which is what? 0. Now, quick point here. If you found an x-intercept, your y is always gonna be 0, because that's the only way you could be on the x-axis. Okay, so if it's an x-intercept, you can look it up every time if you want, but it should always go with a 0 for your other number. Okay, go ahead and turn the page. All right, for number 2, which part is already factored? Remember, factoring means it's broken down into parentheses. Top or bottom? Bottom's already done, put a little check. Okay, for the top, what method are we gonna use to solve? GCF, AC chart, or perfect squares? AC chart, so it's gonna be A, B, C. Okay, remember, I'm gonna multiply the A and the C together. My A is a 1, since there's not a number there, times -10 is -10. Then I'm gonna list all my factors that times to 10, so I could do 1 times 10 or 2 times 5. No other factors. Okay, remember that in the middle, my B, they're supposed to be a +3. And also remember, I know this is a minus chart because my 10 at the top is negative. So which of these pairs will minus to give me 3? 5 and 2, very good. When I put my minus, I want to keep my 3 positive. So I'm going to put the minus on which number? 2. Okay, so I have x -2, x +5. Is my A a 1? I'm done? Yes, so I don't have to divide and slide. I can skip that. Okay, then on the bottom, I had a 3x and an x -2. Okay, what term is going to cross out? X -2's are going to cross out, which means there will be a hole at x equals 2, right? So I'm going to start filling in the blanks down here now instead of writing them on the equation. So the hole is at x equals 2, which means 2 comma something. Remember, I'm going to come back and find this y value later. Okay, vertical asymptotes are x's left over on the bottom. Do I have one? Yes. And do you see how your X on the bottom is on the outside? What does X on the outside mean? Do you remember? If your X is left on the outside, it's 0, thank you. Okay, remember, outside starts with an O, that means X equals 0. Did I have an X left over on top? Was it X plus 5? Which means where's the 0 gonna be? At -5. Which means -5 comma something. Okay, then to find those two Y values, you're gonna take what's left over of your equation, put it into the calculator, look them up in your chart. Okay, my leftover expression is gonna be an X plus 5 on top and a 3X on bottom. Okay, but you're just typing in the pieces that stay after you factor cancel. So it'd be an X plus 5 on top, 3X on bottom. Okay, then in second graph, look up 2's Y value. Can you tell me what it is? It's a fraction. 7/6 is correct. Then I also need -5's Y value. And it is 0. And remember, it should always be 0 if you have the correct x-intercept. Okay, does that make sense? All right. These notes are going pretty quick. Next one. Okay, 3, neither part is already factored for us. Okay, which part is going to be a C chart, which we just did, top or bottom? Bottom. So let's go ahead and knock that part out first. So A, B, C. 1 times -14 is -14. My bottom number is a 5. What will times to give me 14 starting with 1? 1 times 14, right? And then 2 times 7. Okay, then 3, 4, 5, 6 won't go. We have all our partners. Okay, I need numbers that will minus to give me 5. Who am I picking? 7 and 2. Where will I put the negative if I want to keep the 5 positive? The 7 or the 2? The 2 is correct. If my A is a 1, I'm done and I don't have to divide and slide, is it? Yes. Yes. So it'll be X minus 2 and X plus 7. Okay, from here, take a look at the top. Okay, it is not perfect squares. I cannot square root 2. I can cut 2 in half, but that's not the same thing. So looking at the top, if I can't square root, I can't AC chart, that means it has to be GCF. What can both of these divide by? 2. So I'm going to do GCF, and I'm going to divide the 2 out. So now I have 2 parentheses. My 2x squared is just an x squared now. And then what about my 98 when I divide that by 2? Very good. That's going to be 49. Okay, from here, now I can do perfect squares. Okay, now that I've taken the 2 out, both of these are perfect squares. What's the square root of x squared? X. What's the square root of 49? Remember, plus or minus 7. So the top is going to be a 2 in the front, x plus 7 and x minus 7. The bottom was an x minus 2 and an x plus 7. Okay, now taking a look at your entire equation now that it's in factored form. Okay, what can we cross out? X plus 7. Okay, and if the plus 7's cross out, where will the whole be? X equals minus 7. Very good. -7 comma something. My vertical asymptote comes from any x's left on the bottom. What x is left on the bottom? It's a -2, so I'm going to put x equals +2. Okay, then for my x-intercept, that would be any x's left on the top. I have an x minus 7, which means it's going to be at +7. But that one needs to be written as an ordered pair. Okay, then to find these y values, you're going to take the pieces of your equation that did not cross out, type them into the calculator, look up the y values that go with it. So in my calculator, I'm gonna put x minus 7 over x minus 2. Is that correct? What are we missing? That, very good. Don't forget that 2 needs to stay there. Otherwise, your answer is gonna come out wrong when you put it in the calculator. Okay, so anything that doesn't cross out needs to be typed in here. So y equals alpha x, 2x minus 7 over x minus 2. Once you have that typed in, second graph, I want negative 7's partner, which is 28 over 9. And then I want positive 7's partner, and before I even scroll to get there, what do I know it's gonna be if it's an x-intercept? Very good, 0. Now, I wanna point something else out to you. Will you look for x equals 2 in your table? What is 2's partner? Error. Okay, an error means that you don't have an x at 2, but if you remember what an asymptote looks like, okay, remember that an asymptote is going to be a line that your graph can't touch. So graph can't touch the x value at a VA. Okay, so if you want to write that in, that's what a vertical asymptote is an x that as your graph gets close to it, it just goes crazy because it can't touch that specific value. So in my calculator, if I see an error, okay, that should also kind of confirm to you that there's an asymptote there, okay? All right, go ahead and turn the page. We only have 2 left, almost done. Okay, take a look at number 4. Which part is already factored for us, top or bottom? Okay, bottom's already done, little check there. Okay, on the top, can I square root? No. Now, here's why this is a little bit tricky. You might see the 4 and think, yeah, I can square root 4. Can I split an x3 though into equal pieces? No. So we're gonna have to try something else, not perfect squares. Is there a GCF I could take out? Okay, 4x, very good. So my 4x is gonna get pulled out. What is that gonna leave behind from a 4x cubed? X squared. And then a minus 1, very good, because you have to leave something. So if it was a 4x and I take the whole 4x out, leave a 1 there as a placeholder. Okay, then the bottom was already done. Can I break the top down one more time? This part? Square roots, very good. What's the square root of x squared? Regular x. What's the square root of 1? Plus or minus 1. So on the top, we have a 4x. We have an x plus 1 and an x minus 1. On the bottom, you have an x plus 2 and an x minus 1. Okay, then you're looking through that to see what's going to cross out. What is my common factor that the top and the bottom both have? Okay, and if minus 1's cross out, where will the whole be? Positive 1. And then I'm going to put 1 comma something so that I don't forget that I'm going to have to go back and find that y value. Okay, then any x's left on the bottom create vertical asymptotes. So if I have an x plus 2 left on the bottom, where will the asymptote be? Negative 2. And then I'm going to put next to that, you should see an error in the chart at that number. Okay, that's an easy check to see if your asymptote is correct. Okay, then for your x-intercepts, I want any x's left on top. How many x's are left on top? 2. That means I'm going to have 2 x-intercepts. I have an x plus 1, which means what's my first one going to be at? Plus 1 will turn to minus 1 or negative 1. And then if I have an x on the outside, what's the other one? 0. Very good. Okay, so that means I'll have negative 1 comma something and 0 comma something. But then remember, if it's an x-intercept, without me really even having to look these up, I automatically know the y values will be 0. You can check them still in your chart, okay, but they should be zeros. what will I type into my calculator to find the rest of the whole? What was left on top? 4x, x plus 1. You do have to put the parentheses. And then on bottom, I had an x plus 2. So if you'll look up that y value for the whole. Okay, we're doing y equals alpha x. 4x, x plus 1, x plus 2. Second graph. One's partner is, do you get 8/3? Perfect. Okay, do we feel like we can do this? Not too bad. All right, last one. Okay, take a look at it. We need to factor both pieces. What type of factoring could I do on the top? GCF is going to be correct. What can I take out? 4x, very good. My 4x comes out. Let's see what's left over. 4x squared is going to leave an x behind. What will the 20x leave behind? Just a 5. No x on that guy because I pulled its x out. Very good. Okay, on the bottom, what can I take out? It's also a GCF. Just an x. Very good. My x is going to come out to the front. That leaves me, the x squared leaves an x. The 6x leaves just a 6. Okay, from there, the number here doesn't matter. You're looking for x's that can cross out. So I have an x on the outside with an x on the outside. When you mark it out though, don't include the 4 because there's not also a 4 on the bottom. So gone, gone. And if I crossed out an x on the outside, what is my 0 going to be? Or oops, I said it wrong. What is my x going to be? 0. Okay, remember, x is outside. It means that 0 is going to be your number. So then I'm going to come down here to my x equals 0 and put 0 comma something. My vertical asymptote is any x's left on the bottom. X's left on bottom. And what is my x left on bottom with? What number? It's left with a -6, so I'll put +6. Okay, also remember, you should get an error in the chart there. Okay, if you don't, you know you messed up. Then x-intercepts are going to be x's left on top. My only x left on top is the x minus 5, which means it's going to happen at what number? -5 will turn to a +5. 5 comma something. But then I know my y value there is always 0. Okay, then to finish out your whole, you're going to need to, to type in your equation and then look up the y value. So go to y equals here. I'm going to type in x minus 5 over x minus 6. Is that correct? Good. We need that 4. Okay, type it in and then look up your y value. So it'll be a 4 in the front, x minus 5. And then x minus 6 on bottom. Okay, so 0's partner for me came out to be 10/3. Okay, now let me show you something real quick. Okay, before we transition to our homework. If you type in the original equation, you don't need to do this, but I just want you to watch. 4x squared and then minus 20x over x squared minus 6x. Okay, if I go into my chart on the original equation and I go to 0, what does it say? Error. You're not going to get the 10/3 if you don't fix it by doing the factor cancel. So if you type in the original, you can still see that 0 is an important number, but you can't find its y value if you don't have the factors crossed out. So don't put in the original, you need to put in the fixed version. Okay? All right, go ahead and pull out your Chromebooks. Go ahead and log into Delta Math for me, please. Okay, y'all should be able to see your assignment now. Okay, and then I'll do one vertical asymptote with y'all, then I'll do one hole with y'all. So this is just the very first question. And then you do have some blank paper on the back of your notes if you want scratch work. Okay, so first question. Okay, which are we looking for? Your homework today, you're only finding either holes or vertical asymptotes. So what are we finding in this question? Okay, vertical asymptotes. And where, look at your notes, where can I find vertical asymptotes? Are they the ones that cancel or the leftovers on the bottom? Leftovers on the bottom, very good. So take a look at the top. How can we factor that? So does the top have anything in common? Do they both have an X? Can they divide by a number? It's got to be square roots. Very good. What is the square root of X squared? So it'll be X and X. What's the square root of 1? Plus 1 and minus 1. Remember, you want one of each. Okay, then look at the bottom. Okay, do those have something in common? Okay, GCF, very good. What can we divide out of each term? And an X, very good. So I'm going to take a 3X out. What does that leave me with? My 9X squared, if I divide it by 3X, turns to a 3X. And my 30X, when I divide it by 3X, turns into a what? 10. Very good. Okay, now, look at your equation. Does anything cross out? No, then I don't have any holes, but I'm not looking for holes anyways. What am I looking for? That's X's left on the bottom. Count for me how many X's were left on the bottom. 2. So I'm going to click right here. I want 2 asymptotes. And then in the equations, I'm going to put the solutions for both of those terms. If one of my X's is on the outside, what will the first answer be? X equals 0. You do have to put the X equals or it'll count it wrong. And then for my second one, X equals, it's a minus 10. So what do I change it to? Minus 10 will go to a plus 10. And then do you remember you slide the 3 back down? So it would be positive 10 over 3. Okay, so you're still going to take the opposite of the minus 10, turn it plus, but then that 3 divides back down to the bottom. Can you do it? Okay. So go ahead and submit that one. Then I want you to skip ahead to the first of the holes. Okay, to the first question that has holes. Okay, which is second from the bottom. Okay, so you're only finding holes in this section. Okay, but you are going to have to factor. So let's do the bottom first. Okay, because for the bottom, it's going to be a little bit easier because it's just a GCF. So what can I take out of the bottom here? Okay, GCF divide by 3. So I'm going to have a 3 in the front. What's left over? The 3 comes out. What's left from the 3X? Just an X. What about from the 15? 5. Very good. Okay, now take a look at the top. This isn't going to be GCF or perfect squares because I have too many pieces. What is it the right size for? The AC chart. So A, B, C. Remember in my chart, I multiply the A and the C together. So that'd be 2 times 5 is 10. And then I want to list all of the factors that I can get 10 with. So 1 times 10 or 2 times 5. What do I need my factors to add to be 11? So who's going to add to give me 11? 10 and 1. Very good. Now I want a positive 11, so I'm going to keep them both positive. So my factors are X plus 1 and X plus 10. If my A is a 1, I'm done. Is my A a 1? What is it? 2. Then I need to divide and slide with 2. So can 1 divide by 2? Then I'm going to slide it. So it'll be 2x plus 1. And then x plus 10 divided by 2 goes to what? X plus 5. Which means that what can cross out in my equation? Very good. Now, after these cross out, I know that my x is going to be a -5. Okay, but remember, you need to type it in as an ordered pair. So from this point, okay, you need to take what's left of the equation, put it in your calculator, and then find the y value.
Oh, no, that's fine. Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Okay, so in the calculator, okay, let me put mine up. You're gonna type in a 2x plus 1. Yeah, I think I have one here. Okay, I'm gonna type in a 2x plus 1 over 3. Okay, very slow. And then find your y value at -5. Okay, so y equals, clear this out, alpha x, we want 2x plus 1 over 3, second graph. Okay, then I want the y value for -5, so I'm just gonna go up. And then I see what's -5's partner? -3. So you'll type into your delta math. Okay, -5, comma, -3 would be your answer. Okay. Sound good? You have 50 minutes. Okay, so this homework is a little more factoring and stuff, but raise your hand if you need help, okay? You have the rest of class to finish.